I'm here.
Read up.
I'm here, we can go.
You're here, all right, that's all that matters.
Right.
For planning will now come to order. The members introduce themselves around the board. Mr. Oberman. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Frank.
Oh, Frank Beagle, yeah.
Leanne Redden, RTA.
Al Larson Sharber.
Rita Athis, City of Chicago.
Has everybody forgotten who they are of this election? Jerry Bennett, representing Southwest Cook.
I think all the excitement from the launch event last month has got everybody out of their routine. Joe Zabo, CMAP staff.
Carolyn Schofield, representing McHenry County.
Matt Brawley, the mayor in Montgomery, representing Kane and Kendall.
Matt Walsh, representing West Cook County.
And on the phone, we have a couple of people.
Rick Reinbold.
Andrew Madigan.
So it sounds like Rick Reinbold and Andrew Madigan. Anybody else on the phone?
Mayor Franco Cola Di Pietro.
Okay, Mayor Cola Di Pietro also. Very good.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Jeanette. Or Diane, sorry.
We have
We
a
have
quorum.
quorum, and before you minutes of our last meeting, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the October 10th meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? If not, all in favor signify by a vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, vote of no. Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, this will be, you know, you hang around here long enough on this board, you see some members turn over. And this morning, we'd like to thank and recognize Marty Overman for your service on the CMAP board. You've got a very nice promotion and position you're going to. We're going to miss you on this board, Marty, and especially your contribution and timing because of the 2050 plan. We all appreciated your comments, your suggestions, your thoughts, and helping shape that plan. So on behalf of the board, we'd like to present you with.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah, you don't get away
I'm
with
gonna have to be
that.
presented with something.
Come on up, Marty.
Oh, and look at it, it's nice.
Look at this.
Our latest poster that's put into a frame. Congratulations. Get in there, Marty.
Thank you, Joe.
Let's get in the middle.
Oh, okay. In the middle?
Yeah, that's right. Get the middle and hold it.
Thank you. I don't feel as though I made enough of a contribution to this plan to warrant the plaque, and if the ethics people in Washington tell me it's not a conflict of interest, I'll hang this on my wall at the STB.
Excellent, very good.
I am going from a very intense part-time job to a full-time job, so I don't know if that's a promotion, but I accept. But thank you, Jerry.
You're always working hard.
Yeah. Well, let me say this, I've been here for a short time, but I've come away very impressed with the work that we do at CMAP, and particularly the staff. I always have understood the boards I serve on are only effective because you have such fabulous substantive staff people who make us all look good. So anyway, thank you again, and it's been my honor to serve.
Thank you, sir. Good luck to you. And I'm sure the city of Chicago will quickly make an appointment to fill that vacancy.
Actually, they have identified a person, and they tell me as soon as my resignation goes in after today's meeting, you'll probably be making that announcement soon. That's my understanding.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Rob.
mine also.
Okay, under the director's report, Joe.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The local technical assistance updates is in your packets. So is the 2019 meeting schedule. And just one item of note, the joint October meeting with the Policy Committee will be on Thursday, October 10th, rather than the normal Wednesday because Yom Kippur falls on that Wednesday. Just like to thank everybody again, the members of the board and certainly the staff for what was really an eventful launch event on October 10th. In particular, I want to recognize Mandy and the rest of our communications and outreach team for the job that they did in really putting a successful event together. It was well received by the roughly 1,000 people that attended, and I think it really did a wonderful job in capturing our On to 2050 plan, our principles, and was the perfect way to pivot to implementation. We will have a presentation from Tina a little bit later on the website that also includes a brief video, highlight video that our media company put together for us. That was a pleasant surprise, so we'll get a chance to see that and relive some of the excitement. As part of pivoting to implementation and getting the plan out into the public domain, the following week on October 16th, I addressed the City Club of Chicago about our On to 2050 plan. And the focus was how the plan will advance our core principles of inclusive growth, resilience, and prioritize investment as we do pivot into implementation. I also highlighted the need for sustainable, flexible funding for our region and for the state's capital needs, and just wanted to say thank you to the board members that were in attendance that day. Also, earlier this month, staff and I had a chance to meet with the Cook County Assessor-elect Fritz Cahey. Gave us an opportunity to hear his priorities as well as a chance to share a lot of the work and recommendations on tax policy that CMAP has. Was a good meeting. It was over an hour. I was very impressed with his depth of understanding, getting down into the minutia, and certainly encouraged by the exchange of ideas. Not that reform in Cook County will be easy. I think everybody understands the magnitude of the challenge, but the clear understanding of the need, of the challenges, of the problems that we currently face with the existing approach. It was a refreshing conversation, and I think equally as important, we've offered our expertise and assistance to the team as they transition into office, and we have been asked to serve on that transition. In addition, I've also reached out to the Pritzker transition team and offered our assistance there, an opportunity to brief them, much like this agency did with the incoming Rauner administration 4 years ago. Also been asked to serve and attended my first meeting on October 25th for Mayor Emanuel's new Transportation and Mobility Task Force. This is taking a look at the challenges of transportation and how the city best prepares itself for emerging technologies and the challenges, the conflicts that exist between existing transportation modes and those that are emerging with the changes in transportation. Task Force is chaired by my old boss, former DOT Secretary Ray LaHood, and is set to release its recommendations early next year before Mayor Emanuel leaves office. CMAP has already intended to take a regional approach on the same issues after the first of the year, and so it's our hopes that this document that we're helping the city put together, and so many stakeholders are helping the city put together, that document can serve as a foundation for our broader work for the region, since transportation really knows no boundaries. Flows from community to community, and the economy is larger than any one city or community. Also want to remind everybody we have a poster in the back for indicating your support of On to. That's right, Russell, point to it. You can point to it. It's like you're on a game show on TV.
Or the weatherman, yeah.
Or a weatherman, that's right. That would work too. But we ask that everybody take the opportunity to sign the poster in the back. Mr. Chairman, that is my report.
Thank you. The chair would like to recognize the attendance of Janelle Ford. John Noak, welcome.
Thank you.
And just a comment in general on the changes that took place last week. I feel very upbeat about what's taken place, and I think the timing of our the onto 2050 will hopefully correlate with the message Springfield needs to deliver to the state going forward, and not just in the areas of transportation, but I feel positive about, I think, some changes that can take place, certainly in the area of revenue. There's no doubt that this state, and certainly even on a national level, the continuing pending need for investment in infrastructure is so critical. I think certainly the state would happen before the Fed, but I really believe in, we have an opportunity, I think, Joe, as you mentioned, about meeting with the new governor's team, and certainly Gordon down with the members of the General Assembly, that they can begin to get their act together and put together some type of transportation plan for the state. We have laid out a plan. We know the numbers that are needed, and to begin that process. I know there's so many other issues involved, certainly with the consideration of property tax and how they're going to be able to manage that, probably is a number one priority in attempting to refund education and lower local property taxes, doing that going forward. But certainly there's going to be a revenue struggle as to who and what and where that comes forward. So, but again, I feel pretty positive, and I think there is a spirit of cooperation, spirit of urgency and need to turn the state back around financially, and with that, without a doubt, that trickle effect for all, certainly all the mayors up here knows what that means to our local economies when we have a state that's working and functioning, that they're not taking our revenues, and that they're doing the, making the right decisions going forward. So I feel upbeat, and I hope this agency can play a role in that going forward, with some influence and some solid planning as to how to go about it.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could add to members of the board or even those in the audience. So like I said, we've had the opportunity to brief Fritz Cahey, been in contact with the Pritzker transition, but we would be open to briefing anybody that you believe it would be appropriate, throughout the region, to better understand the work that we have done and how we believe that it results in sound public policy. So please keep that in mind and let us know if there are others that you believe we should sit down with.
Absolutely, certainly to the board members. This diversity of this board reaches out through the entire metropolitan area, and anything you're hearing or seeing or encouraging moments for us to interact with those various political entities, we're here to do that and seek whatever route we can to begin some influence of what's going on. If I may, somebody was announced a retirement or a transfer, and I don't know if, Tom, you're going to be, Tom Garantano, been with us from day one, is our public relations person. Tom, I don't know if you were going to be at the January meeting. I certainly didn't want to skip an opportunity to thank you for being in the beginning. And certainly the beginning, as we know, Rita, was the hardest part, and Frank, of getting this agency off the ground, and the public relations aspect of that, and at times struggled, was so critical in giving us a level of credibility in the metro area, convincing our partners that was the right choice to form this agency, that was the right move to build upon the relationships that we needed, interacting with the press. Tom, you did a great job for this agency, and I don't want you certainly to quietly go out the door without certainly this board recognizing all the work that you've done, and we wish you the best of luck going forward. Thank you, Tom. All right, moving on to the item number 5 on the procurements and contracts. Angela.
Good morning. This morning I'm seeking approval for 3 contracts. The first one is to enter into a contract with Ratio to conduct the Village of Calumet Park Comprehensive Plan. The second is to enter into a contract with VSKA for market analysis and development advisory services for the agency. And the third contract I'm seeking approval is with Duncan Associates to conduct a zoning ordinance update for the Village of Summit. So I'm seeking the board's approval for all.
Are there questions on any of those contracts? If not, the chair will recognize approval of all three of them, 5, 1, 2, and 3. Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Moved and seconded. Any questions again? If not, all in favor signify by a vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, vote of no. Motion carries. Thank you, Angela.
Comprehensive.
Under the committee reports, do we have one? None?
It says, written summary will be distributed.
Oh, okay. Tom, one more thought, Tom. I just keep flashing back to the early days when we ended up fighting with 2 governors who threatened our funding, and I always kid at Tom that he had to hold me back, restrain me from going too far out on a limb with a couple of controversial things. And believe me, I learned a lot on public relations, and
Sounds like
again, I can't.
running a not-for-profit.
I thank you for that, too. I saw when the vein came in my neck. Said, you give me the cutoff. Those are crazy days. Crazy days. On the CMAP committee structure, Simone.
Good morning. I'll try to
Good morning.
keep this brief because I know I'm standing between you, Tina, and Gordon, who I know will be the star of this show today. But I'm here to discuss an exercise that we undertook following the adoption of Onto 2050. We wanted to make sure that the agency was really well positioned in terms of our committee structure to implement the plan. So we undertook a project starting in the late summer, early fall, to really look at a few things. No CMAP analysis is complete without taking a national scan to see what other MPOs and regional planning organizations are doing. So we did that on the look for unique practices that we should explore in our own region. We also took an in-depth look at our own committees, their history, what work they've taken on over the years, fluctuation in membership, issues like that. We spent time talking with our committee liaisons who really have those relationships with the over 100 people that serve on our working committees to get to know what some of the strengths and challenges are. We also spent quite a bit of time talking with the many staff that actually authored the plan to really understand how we can make strong connections between the plan principles and especially those near-term implementation recommendations. We asked some basic questions. Does our committee structure still serve us well? What committees do we need to do our work? And how can we improve our engagement? Overall, we found that our current committee structure really adds significant value. The committees meet with us every month to guide our research, policy development, ensure that we're using best practices in planning, and guide the very interconnected nature of the agency's work. The committees also serve as a forum for the many stakeholders that engage with us to not only share work with us, but with the other folks in the room. And we learn about progress being made on a range of issues in every corner of the region. I'd say that our process has been robust and sustained since pretty much the organization's development. And we have a unique asset of engaging subject matter experts and local officials with the knowledge of the real challenges in implementing some recommendations and priorities. And this is somewhat uncommon in our peer organizations. But with anything, and being CMAP, we always want to improve and we always want to innovate where it makes sense. So the memo that you have before you today makes a few recommendations that reflect that. I'd say that the plan development process, not only allowed us to really build on Go to 2040, but refine some new emphasis areas and explore some new topics, and our committee structure should reflect that. Our extensive public engagement through the outreach team and the staff that was talking with their counterparts in other organizations, and also just through the resource papers or the white papers and strategy papers where we really intensively engaged experts. We met a lot of new people, we engaged a lot of new expertise, and we don't want to lose that. And then finally, we have a real challenge. The plan's principles of inclusive growth, resilience, and prioritized investment call on us to integrate those three principles in all of our work, and we need to make sure that our committee structures and membership reflect that urgency and the urgency of those priorities and that mandate from you. So with that, we've developed three pretty straightforward recommendations. I hope you have had a chance to review them, because I'll run through them quickly. I feel like there's no need to belabor this. The first recommendation really reflects the fact that our role in the arena of housing has changed. Also, some of the stakeholders and other players have stepped up and taken on some really important projects, and we serve at those tables. So we're suggesting that we merge both the land use and housing committees. And that really reflects the goals in the community chapter that illustrates the important intersections between development decisions and community vitality. You know, thinking about what residents' needs are, all of the housing options that they are really aspiring to ensure that we have the vibrant and prosperous communities. But we'd like to see more of a direct connection between some of the development decisions that affect that vitality of communities. So our recommendation there is just a pretty simple merger of those two working committees. The second recommendation focuses on our coordinating committee level, where we have that interaction between the board members and the working committees. And there, we'd like to see if we might be able to streamline the process a bit, really challenge ourselves to develop a broad-ranging agendas in a single committee, so we don't have the planning issues or policy or programming issues siloed in different committees. We'd like to see those conversations happening with the same group of people. So the second recommendation is to create a single coordinating committee, and to keep it manageable, our recommendation was to have 6 members of the board, 2 from collar counties, 2 from suburban Cook, and 2 from the city of Chicago. And to identify those members, we offer the recommendation of delegating the responsibility to our executive director of having conversations with you all to see who has the bandwidth right now to serve for the next year. And the idea would be to have those coordinating committee meetings each month before the board meeting, because we will have quite a bit of material to run through there, again at that unfortunate 8 a.m. time. But we'd like to make the most of your time here at CMAP and really take on the near-term implementation, hit the ground running there. And then the third recommendation, and I hinted at it quite a bit, is that we met quite a few new people, and we need to make sure that we're able to apply the plan principles in each of our working committees. So we'd also like for you to kind of dedicate the executive director and staff to identifying what expertise we need to bring into our committees. And we would do that between now and your January meeting and have a recommendation for you all starting at that point. So hopefully all of that made sense. I'd be happy to take any questions or discuss any of it further.
Questions about the, Rita?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the recommendations and think that, you know, the thought process that went into it is very good. My only concern would be, and I'm glad that you said that the coordinating committee would meet on a monthly basis. I think one of the most important things that the committee did before was look at the local technical assistance projects, and I want to make sure, we'd even talked about making sure that some of those projects come to the full board. Yeah. I think that's amongst the most important work that CMAP does, and as we go into 2050, I don't want that to get lost because there's not enough time. If anything, I think those projects should be highlighted and given more time, not just at that committee, but maybe the committee could decide when one of those projects comes to the full board, because it's, you know, taking all the good thoughts and work and policy that everybody does and making it so real. So I don't want to get that lost in the new committee structure.
Joe?
Yeah, no, I think it's an important point. And Rita, to your point of actually ensuring that the board gets, you know, presentations on a somewhat regular basis, now that we've got the plan adopted and put behind us, you know, we will have more agenda time. And, you know, this is such a critical and exciting part of implementation. And so just seeing the good work and how we're helping these individual communities prosper is going to be an important part of our work going forward. So important point.
Absolutely.
Other comments,
Thank you.
questions?
I just want to make a comment. I had talked to Simone about it as well. Just express, I guess it would be to the executive director, just my concern from the two of the collar counties representation, making sure that it's geographically dispersed, because there is a wide range of distribution throughout that region. So I just wanted to make that point, that would be my only concern of going down to two, is that both areas of the region are represented, because it is such a distance.
And most importantly, that those who do volunteer to serve, can do it.
Right, right.
The point of having those 6 people are for the purpose of attending those meetings and, cooperating with one another.
And this was part of our challenge, is staff was working on putting the recommendations together of whether we should stay at 8 AM before a board meeting or look at a different day. And there's pros and cons to both, but it seemed that the consensus was that while 8 AM is early, it's easier for you to make one trip in, particularly from, far out in the collars, so.
John?
I'll beg to disagree. I think that the early time is a detriment. Obviously, it does take quite a bit of time, and if we're going to combine these things and commit the time, if you're willing to commit the time, let's have it on a separate day. Let's actually put time into it, so there's no rush, that it can have as long of an agenda as it needs, and dedicate the time it needs for it. There's no reason to have to rush it, and only, if you're committed to doing this, you can be committed to coming down more than once. So I really disagree, because I think it opens up the ability for more people to serve and more people to attend if we offer it on a different time.
So I think what we can do is do a poll of the board to see where the consensus is. Obviously, as staff, we're open to either approach. We just want what is going to work best and allow for the greatest level of participation. So we'll do a poll to see where
I don't know if you
where
want,
the consensus lies.
whether you want to establish as a recommendation for the executive director to basically choose or recommend those 6 members, whether you want to wait till before or after the polling to see who's going to make that choice of wanting to sit on the committee. So however you want to do that.
Yeah, we'll make it a part of the process.
Okay. Yes, Leanne?
Just a quick question. Is there any crossover on the coordinating committee to the policy, the MPO policy committee, or is it just strictly out of the board space? Remind me, is that?
Good question.
I don't believe so, unless I'm mistaken.
Well, I mean, it's a board coordinating.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not necessarily get it out of.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Sorry,
I get that, but.
well, in as much as the Transportation Committee reports to both the board and the MPO, the chair of the Transportation Committee will serve on the coordinating committee
Okay,
as well.
that's the connection.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify
Not
that we were
enough
still
coffee.
maintaining that connection, because there's.
Absolutely.
Even though, I get that it's a creation of the board, but we should work to maintain some kind of crosswalk between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the purpose, is to make sure that there is the input and
Yeah.
cross-coordination with all of our committees.
And in saying that, is there a designee in case that person cannot make it either? I mean, you can always, you can establish whoever is a participant, but who is an active participant, I think, is a difference. So,
Sure.
and in having somebody from MPO, whether we designate it as the chair or whoever, that there's an allowance for some type of alternate or designated person to come back and report to the MPO policy committee if the chair can't attend.
Currently, the board and the MPO appoint the chair and vice chair of the Transportation Committee, and our thinking was that the vice chair for each of the working committees,
be the-
including TC, could be the alternate on the coordinating committee to make sure that we had really consistent attendance across all of the different groups.
Very good. Other further questions? There is a recommendation, and I'll entertain a motion to accept that recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any final questions or comments? If not, all in favor, signify by a vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, vote of no. Motion carries.
Aye.
Simone, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work on that. All right, moving on to item 8, and that's the onto 2050 website demonstration. Tina?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So this summer, let's see, came to show you what the website was going to look like, and now if I can make this work, and Melissa's, oh, I need to log in, okay. Well, just a moment. Oh, of course. Sorry about this. I wasn't prepared to log in. Yay. So this summer I came to show you the design for the Onto 2050 website, and I just want to quickly show you what it ended up looking like, with a focus on some tools that you might miss if you were just glancing through it, and with a particular focus on tools for implementation. But as Joe mentioned, before I do that, I wanted to show you a quick 2-minute video highlighting the launch event. We actually weren't expecting to get this, so I wasn't expecting to show it today. Our videographer, who is the same photographer that did all of the beautiful shots of the region that I showed you this summer, put this together based on a video reel he took of the launch event, so we were really excited to see this morning.
Thank you all for being here today to celebrate the launch of Onto 2050. What brings us here today really is the future of our region. By addressing these challenges and building on our many resources, our region can make real progress towards broad, lasting prosperity and quality of life.
I think we should speak as one voice, not just to push for a transportation bill in Springfield, but set a deadline. That if it doesn't pass by May, this greater region will do our own transportation bill with CMAP.
This is such an important moment that we all just stop and pause and reflect on where we are as a community, where we are as a region. If this plan is implemented the right way, and it will, you will create citizens and a region that people will say, that's where I live, and that's where I raise my kids, and that is my home.
When I think about my future, I want to think about it with hope. And when I think about the Chicago region with its limitless diversity, I believe it is the perfect place to start the change that America so desperately needs. Yes, our problems are complex, but that is all the more reason to work together toward a more inclusive and peaceful 2050.
I just want to reiterate Joe's thanks to Mandy and Jane, who coordinated all of the staff volunteers. I started at CMAP about 4 years ago, and I think within a month or two of when I started, Tom said to me, when we launch onto, we didn't have a name then, when we launch the next plan, we have to have John Hatcher speak at our launch event, and I think we'd all agree that that was one of the best moments. So good idea, Tom. Thank you so much for your leadership through all of this. Okay, so the website. So if you go to cmap.illinois.gov, this is what you see. And right now, the homepage directs you to both a short video that we saw at the launch event and to the plan website. But once this image changes, which it will, as we start to highlight other work, you can always access Onto 2050 via the top navigation. Once you're at the Onto 2050 website, it's its own website with its own navigation, and you can always go back to CMAP by selecting the CMAP logo. So again, this is going to be really brief, but I wanted to show you just some things that you might miss in exploring the plan. Under About the Plan, there's some basic information about why we did the plan, how it's organized, but you can also here, just so you're aware, get a PDF of the executive summary, the one that we have in the lobby that you all received at the launch event, in case that's ever something that you want to reference. I'm going to skip over principles, our region today, and chapters and come back to that in just a moment. Under resources, I just wanted to point out a couple things that might be useful. The first is the indicators. So the indicators were collected in an appendix for the plan, but here you can find them all individually linked. I'm just going to pick one and show you that within this, you see the indicator that is tracking some measurement for improvement. You can also always get to the methodology via this key link. Here, this indicator has an inclusive growth perspective. Some of them do, some of them don't, but those are always paired where there is one. Then you see whether it was an indicator in Go to 2040 and what that indicator showed for Go to 2040. But then at the bottom, you also are always linked back to recommendations that pertain to this indicator. I also wanted to point out the local strategy maps. So there are several of them. One of them that I wanted to show you really quickly, the economically disconnected and disinvested areas. One of the reasons I just wanted to point this out was that if you haven't looked at this, so these are interactive. The keys here change both the map and the text that's next to the map. But I wanted to show you that under Onto 2050 development is where you will find all the snapshots, the strategy papers, and all the drafts of the plan that you saw during development in case that was something that you ever needed to reference. Also on this page is by its goals. One of the things I wanted to point out on this page was that if you see a static map, so not all of the maps in the plan are interactive, if you see a static map, we've always had put a PDF in there so you can download it, print it. This way you can zoom in, get more detail, and have it as a resource. Oops. So if we went to a recommendation within governance, you see a profile here. I just wanted to show you, here are those endnotes where you click. The endnotes take a little bit of time and then if you click back, they'll always take you back to where you were in the text. Under each strategy, we have the actions and the implementers that are needed to implement that strategy. And one of the things I wanted to show you was that on the chapter, pages, at the bottom of each page is a matrix just with the recommendations and strategies in that. I'm going to open this really quickly. So these are Excel docs that have every recommendation for that chapter, every strategy, the implementer, and the action. And one of the nice things about having these in Excel is that you can search and sort by your organization or other organizations to see your to-do list for 2050. Another, I wanted to run through one more recommendation so you could see some of the bells and whistles that we have. So we have a photo essay here for mobility. Those are all of the beautiful pictures that Dave Burke took of the region. Here for harness technology to improve travel and anticipate future impacts, there's a lot of strategies in this recommendation. Those are all always available to you on the right-hand navigation. This has an indicator. Again, you can look at the methodology for that indicator by clicking this link to go back to the appendix. Where we had a lot of strategies, where we wanted people to help visualize how those would be implemented, we've created these visualizations that have hotspots, where you can look at some of the strategies in action. This also has a local strategy map that if you click this, it would open in a new tab. A infographic about the different impacts of AVs in different regions. And then one of my personal favorites, this before and after. We had urban designers work to help us see what the impact of this might be in the future, and I can't help but show that off. And again, here you have the actions and implementers, and if you went back to the mobility chapter homepage, you would get that mobility implementation matrix. But if you wanted to just get them all at the same time, you can go to implementing the plan. Here, this is a section of the website we expect to grow a lot over the next several years as we add new tools and case studies about implementation. But here, you can download the entire implementation matrix. Let me open that up for you. And it is divided by chapter, so you could see them all at the same time. Finally, I just want to show one, if you have not explored it yet. So all of the material you see on the website, our communications staff, Joey Silverhorn and Melissa Silverberg, put together. They built the tools that our developer gave us. They built the content. We had one interactive actually built for us because we thought it was so important to share this data, and it is racial and ethnic disparities and economic outcomes in U.S. regions. And I just wanted to quickly show you what you can do with this. So when you go to this interactive, you see educational attainment, unemployment, and median household income for different racial and ethnic groups in Chicago. But if you scroll down, you can select from 25 different U.S. metros and see the same information and compare the two. And if you wanted to, say, compare Baltimore to New York or Boston, you could do that too. All of this data you can download at this link. And this is something that we worked really hard to have user-friendly and on your phone. So you can look at this on your phone, and it's a vertical experience instead of a horizontal one, but you should be able to see the same things. We're working on a small video too that will highlight how people can use this, and it's something we hope people will share widely for a long time. And with that, I'll take any questions about any parts of the website that I didn't go over, or any other questions you might have.
Questions? Sure.
Because I was going to ask about the video. Can you just let us know when that's available so we can share it? Because I think that would be a hugely valuable tool to get it in the hands of those that will really dig into it. And absolutely. We will probably include it in the weekly this week. So I'd invite you to look at that, but we can send out a separate email as well.
No, that's fine if it's in there. That's great. Thank you. Not a question, but a comment. First of all, I've actually spent a lot of time on this website, so thank you for taking the time to talk us through some of the useful tools, because even though I played around, I had no sense of all of the different ways I can access, and folks at the city, planners and other folks who will be part of implementing onto 2050 can actually access not just insights, but the data and GIS information, and so this is very, very, very helpful. So truly, I think well done. I think it's a very digestible information for residents and folks who aren't as familiar with CMAP and with planning, but also for other folks for whom this is their day-to-day job. So again, thank you for taking the time to talk us through, because I played around a lot, but I didn't play around this much, and I'm excited to be able to take this back to various commissioners and planning staff.
Great. We hope it's a resource people use for years.
It's great.
I'd just like to add, as a person who's still trying to figure out how to put a call on hold on my iPhone, this is just very impressive in terms of usability for lay people, and the amount of data and the ability to quickly access it compared to a lot of particularly government websites, which tend to be many years behind. It's really impressive work, just watching it here, so congratulations.
Yeah, I think as when the agency was formed and after 2040, that we also promote the idea of an agency that provides the analytics and support data for the demographics that are out there. You could almost have CMAP hold courses throughout the high school and community colleges throughout the Chicago region to really show them how this works. It could almost be a class in itself.
The website was a huge staff effort, so it's wonderful to hear this feedback, because everybody contributed. People took a lot of time and effort to try and make it right.
It really is impressive.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, what's interesting is it's also a great PR tool. And as I was sitting here, I was thinking, I have to send this to my grandkids and tell them to use the data for when they do studies. But I thought, why not put it on our networks, Facebook or whatever you have, and tell friends, family, colleagues, this is a great tool, and it really gets CMAP out there. I mean, I know we'll do that on the whole general, But I think personally as board members, you know, with your boards or, you know, with
Yeah.
your friends and family to say, you should be looking at this, that could go a long way to when people say, what's the tangible that CMAP does? Well, here it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, especially for, you know, I've had the opportunity to lecture a couple times, guest lecture at DePaul and urban planning, and really this, for what generically they teach or don't teach at these universities, this is really some, as I approached students about, you know, the nuts and bolts of government and the nuances, and this is really an outstanding opportunity for them to, I said, a class in itself to
And to use in their reports.
Yeah, well, I think in that vein, I mean, we've already had, you know, just tremendous success with the FLIP program, but thinking through how we put together a little toolkit for the high schools as well as the universities, just to really promote the fact that this is available in, to use it in the classroom setting.
Oh, yeah, yes, absolutely. Tina, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our state legislative update. Gordon.
Good morning. I think my time was supposed to be devoted to the veto session, but I'm going to prepare you by saying be prepared to be underwhelmed. This is day 2 of the veto session, and yesterday they came in and came out pretty quickly and did not take a lot of action. I do anticipate there being quite a bit because the governor took veto measures on about 80 bills. They've got 2 weeks or 6 days in order to complete that work, and so I anticipate they will be busy showing the governor the door, would be my guess. But at this point in time, there's not much to report on veto session. What I would tell you is that, you know, post-election, with about 5 races still to be determined in the state, we are anticipating having to reach out to about 30 new members of the General Assembly. Again, just sharing the information about the work that CMAP does and the importance of CMAP to the region and the policy issues that we are supporting and advocating for. So I don't really have much other than we are also, as a team, working on developing the legislative agenda and framework documents related to ONTO 2050, which we will be bringing to the board in January for a February approval. And with that, I will be happy to answer any questions or comments. I'm sure there's...
Just a question, based on what you're hearing, you know, under the publicity level, is there a reason to be optimistic that the Pritzker administration and the legislature are going to be serious about finally having a bond issue and for infrastructure?
I would think so. My guess is they want this governor to start out on the right foot. That would be a great first victory. I don't anticipate it being his first, but I think it'll be his most significant coming out of the gate. When that happens, you know, I can't anticipate that, but
Anybody talking about amounts?
About
the size of any new
no,
bond issue?
not really.
Of which we could assist.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a few zeros to add at the end of whatever number they come up with.
Exactly.
And we have been part of conversations with a broader coalition on how we believe a capital bill could be shaped.
But, and in saying that, staying with the principles about how that money is spent, I think is really critical. I think, I'm thinking and I'm hoping that when Secretary Blankenhorn was in there, that he had established, you know, our principles of prioritizing projects, certainly based on merit, and that principle still sits there, that we don't go back to what it was prior to CMAP, where it's, you know, politics above policy, as that being critical in them going forward with a master plan for capital program. So there's twofold here, obviously the dollars, but also maintaining the principles of how that money should be spent. And we'll go back to the old days, as we said, you know, political boundaries versus really policy boundaries that should be undertaken And I would think, as a reminder, what Mayor of Chicago said at our launch, was that this region stepping up to the plate, if it does not look, or even to coordinate with that, some type of plan that we come forward in the region in support with our county boards, about raising additional revenue through whatever means necessary to move on with or without them. And then finally, with the change in Congress, I'm thinking, I haven't talked to him yet, with Congressman Lipinski, I think he's gonna move up to a chairmanship, maybe in the rail area, I'm not sure yet, but Congressman Lipinski, his seniority now, with the Dems taking over.
Quigley's gonna be chairman of one of the appropriations subcommittees.
Right, and I think the congressman being on transportation could possibly move into one of the subcommittee chairs. And we need to find that out too, especially in the area of CREATE, and certainly his promotion of the CREATE program, which I think, but with a combination of appropriations and specifically in areas of need in transportation, that's two pretty strong
Good 1-2 punch.
components in Washington. So let's follow up on that.
But, Mr. Chairman, if I may, to your points on the capital bill, we think that it's very important that it be done right, that we don't just do one to do one, but we actually get the policy right to make sure that we're prioritizing investments and giving the public the best return for every single penny they're investing.
Questions? Thanks, Gordon. All right, under other business. The board is going to meet in exec session. We still have to make a decision on our real estate, or our future home with a real estate potential transaction. Is there any other business before the board? If not, open up the meeting to the public. Any comments you may have? Yes. Mr. Celebrity?
It's our star.
Yeah, I saw your picture real quickly when Tina was doing the website there. Went by pretty fast, Garland, but.
Good morning. Just wanted to say kudos to, we finally got the O'Hare Kiss and Fly finally open.
Right, especially for now that people, the general public, will know where to get the Metro, and then finally going to get the Pace buses, because so the general public, when they're coming in from O'Hare, they don't have to ask us where do we have to go, and then making sure the signage is more important too, because that saves me a lot. That saves me and my wife a lot of time, because this was long overdue for it, because you know how when people, especially tourists, when they're coming into town, they want to know which way to go, and they have no idea, and then nobody's not pointing to it. So I'm glad we finally got it done, because this is definitely was the project that we've been waiting for, to make sure that the general public and ADA will definitely make sure to get it, and then also for the hard of hearing and visually impaired too, to make sure to help out, because this is definitely the best of them all. So, and then also kudos also too for finally getting the Cook County commissioners finally putting the addresses in for the Forest Preserve, because definitely we finally did it, because every paratransit operations is saying kudos to us, because we definitely did it. It was long overdue. Before that, it was never there, but now we finally did it. So now we can catch up, because other counties should definitely be ready, because we need it, because disability community will say, hey, where's the addresses, so they can make sure it's in the system, and we're definitely going to stick to it, and so we finally did it. So kudos to that.
Great.
Thanks, Garland. Thank you for your advocacy on behalf of, you go back from day one when first meeting we had talking about signage at O'Hare Airport, and you stick to it, as they say, you get it done. So thanks on behalf of the board of your advocacy for those items.
Thanks.
Cancel December.
Also, before we go take a vote to go into exec session, we will be not meeting in December. They'll be canceling our December meeting as tradition. We will meet again back in January. So again, if there's no other business, the board will stay here, go into exec sessions, then come back out and close the meeting. So those who may want to come back for that closure, that's your choice. But if not, I'll entertain a motion that we go into exec session in regards to the real estate transaction.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by a vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, vote of no. Motion carries.
Aye.